paper that I wrote for the scholarship and sharing the eulogy of him today. Okay. 9,387 headstones lie at the heart of Europe in the Normandy American Cemetery. 9,387 crosses are lined in perfect rows, each marking the immeasurable sacrifice given by patriotic men and women serving their country. 9,387 men and women rest just feet away from the beaches they stormed on June 6, 1944, to defend the rights we often take for granted. This number may seem unreal, yet it is the men and women that lay at the Normandy American Cemetery who are merely a fraction of those who sacrificed their lives for freedoms we are ensured today. To give the ultimate sacrifice is to give of oneself willingly and accept the risk of never returning home to the family left behind. Each man and woman lost was a son or daughter to a mother or father that never had the opportunity to see them one last time. For those buried at the Normandy American Cemetery, most stories shared for the names inscribed among the thousands of crosses have been lost over time. However, it is my responsibility to honor their ultimate sacrifice for freedom and ensure that their stories are not forgotten. Each name written among a headstone or inscribed upon the wall of the missing is not just another casualty, yet rather a story waiting to be told. I believe I can speak for most people my age in saying we often take for granted the freedoms that we are ensured by those fighting for such every day. With this in mind, I seek to change the lack of appreciation for the military and to share the history and lives of those who have served. Over the course of the last year, I've met with numerous veterans and experts on the history of World War II to learn as much as I can about those who have sacrificed their lives. I'd love to call myself an expert by now, but I know there's always more to learn. In June of 2016, I had the opportunity to put my research into action and travel to Normandy, France to walk along the beaches fought upon during D-Day and honor a fallen soldier at the Normandy American Cemetery. At this point, I knew it was my responsibility to honor my country by sharing the stories of those lost in war. This was only a starting point in my ultimate goal of ensuring that these stories of the men and women giving the ultimate sacrifice for freedom are not forgotten. My grandfather instilled in me a great sense of patriotism and responsibility for my country. He fought in Vietnam and served 20 years in the United States Army. This has helped me appreciate those who have given their lives for something greater. I understand that being in the military means leaving loved ones and being away from home to fight for freedom and honor their loved country. However, the real meaning of sacrifice only began to resonate with me when I traveled to Normandy, France in June of 2016. On the day I delivered the eulogy of Staff Sergeant Thomas Bellis, I was overtaken with emotion when I realized his is only one of thousands of stories needing to be shared. You can research and read only so much, but seeing the beaches, walking in the footsteps of lost soldiers, bringing their stories to life is an experience unlike any other. I'd like to take some time now to bring to life the story of Staff Sergeant Bellis and read the eulogy that I delivered at his headstone in the Normandy American Cemetery. Staff Sergeant Thomas George Bellis, a patriot, brother, son, and hero, lost his life on July 13, 1944. Staff Sergeant Bellis was a man who persevered 52 weeks a year to provide for his family of 15. He was a man who contributed to his Catholic Church for his love of God, despite his poor economic standing, and a man who received only an 8th grade education, yet knew the true value of sacrifice. As Staff Sergeant Bellis came from humble beginnings and cherished his family and relationship with God, I'm inclined to think that he believed that hard work is the way to heaven and prosperity. Thus, it is these core values that shaped Staff Sergeant Bellis and compelled him to enlist in the military alongside 5 of his brothers. Staff Sergeant Bellis served in the U.S. Army for 2 years and 7 months, but in his final days, he fought a part of the 90th Infantry Division, 358th Infantry Regiment for just over a month. After arriving on D-Day +2, his regiment moved throughout France with rain pouring and mass casualties surrounding his every move. When the 358th Regiment moved from Utah Beach inland towards Cherbourg, their great courage and fearlessness was noted as being beyond description as they fought and crossed enemy lines. Among these fearless and courageous men was Staff Sergeant Bellis. Ultimately, throughout his time in war, Staff Sergeant Bellis was awarded the Combat Infantryman Badge, American Campaign Medal, World War II Medal, and was honored for his expert rifle and bayonet skills. We must therefore honor Staff Sergeant Bellis for these courageous sacrifices and honor his death. After fighting in hand-to-hand combat throughout France, Staff Sergeant Bellis's battalion executed a dauntless flanking maneuver just 2 days before his death around Pont-l'Evêque. This maneuver resulted in mass casualties, but ultimately the crossing of the Malmen Line. It is sometime after crossing the Malmen Line and before the Battle of Gorges, in which Staff Sergeant Bellis was shot in the abdomen. Staff Sergeant Bellis died at age 31 on July 13, 1944. He was found soon after with a fountain pen, billfold, pictures, knife, registration card, and $2.72, all of which were sent back to his father, John Bellis. Of these possessions, I like to think that the pictures were captured of his family back in Sheridan, Wyoming, his teen sisters and brothers that he left behind, and his 5 brothers serving alongside him. Of these brothers, Staff Sergeant Bellis was the only one that did not return home. It is with a heavy heart that we honor him today for the sacrifices he made and remember his life for the Bellis family that never got to see him again. We know today that he is with the Lord in heaven, and I imagine he is among his family, looking down among those serving today in hopes that they will return safely to their families, as he never did. Each hero deserves to be remembered for their sacrifices that ensure our freedoms today. By sharing these stories and appreciation for service, I strive to maintain patriotism and goodwill. Ultimately, it is through the continuation of these stories that we may inform the youth of today of sacrifice and share our common appreciation for service. The lives given for freedom are not just another number or casualty, but rather every number is a story. It is my responsibility to continue learning and researching in order to share with my generation so they too can understand what sacrifice means to our country.